IVM.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you have some time, you should also check out The Seen and the Unseen, which is a podcast hosted by writer Amit Verma, who takes a close look at the seen and the unseen aspects of various government policies.
You can listen to it on the IVM podcast website, app, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Hello and welcome to the Geek Fruit Podcast. My name is Dinkar and with me is the one, the only. They call him Jishnu Guha because that's his name. Hey Jishnu.
Sup?
How do you do?
I'm well, how are you?
How do you like my wrestling intro? Because I know you're a wrestling fan.
Isn't
this how they do wrestling? I've never actually watched wrestling. No. I would watch it as like an 8-year-old and go like,
yeah, exactly.
This is stupid, right?
I could say I was a wrestling fan up until age something teen, like most people.
Who was your favorite wrestler?
How is this relevant?
Why is it not relevant? I'm sure a lot of our fans are also wrestling fans, I suppose.
It always changes. Like, wrestling had, like, seasons. Mm-hmm. Just like every season of Game of Thrones, you root for a different guy.
No, you always root for the dragon. It's cool.
I was like Team Oberyn for the longest time. And then I was like, well, I guess that went to shit. So I had to pick somebody else, right? So I was a Stone Cold guy. Mm-hmm. And then
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Is that the guy?
Stephen Austin, yes.
Stephen Austin, right.
And then I was like an Undertaker guy when he came back, I think. I don't know.
The mythology of Undertaker is very complicated, right? Is it not like he was always wearing a hat, then he stopped wearing a hat?
No, he would take off the hat. He would take off the hat very slowly.
Okay.
They allowed him a lot of time to take off the hat.
Right.
It was a process. And then he swapped the hat for a bandana.
Okay.
But then the bandana wasn't as cool to take off, so he brought the hat back.
Right.
And then...
Were there different people who played the Undertaker?
No.
Okay, cool.
He had a Paul Bunyan. He had a guy.
What?
He had a dude with an urn. Remember that?
Right.
Like, he had a little short, pudgy guy, Paul something. I'm going to call him Bunyan because it sounds funny.
Why not?
He had an urn for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think
because he's the Undertaker.
But I mean, wasn't like the urn had the ashes of the Undertaker, but the Undertaker's alive or something like that?
But
wasn't wasn't he an undead guy? Wasn't the Undertaker a zombie?
Was he?
Basically, he would keep coming back to life, right? Like, people would, like, knock him out. He'd be flat out, be like, yeah, he's dead, we killed him. And then he'd just, like, jump back up. It's like, nobody wakes up like that. Only zombies, like, go from, like, totally flat to 90 degrees.
Right.
Like, he would get up faster than a bono. You know, like, it was not normal.
Right.
And the fact that he had Paul Bunyan on the side, jumping around with this urn, it was very, very shady. So then I said, you know what? I like Stone Cold. He's simple, to the point.
Right.
This Undertaker stuff is creepy.
He's Stone Cold, and that's about it.
That's pretty much it.
I think this is why I didn't watch wrestling.
I do want to know what beer he drank. Do you know what beer he drank?
Who's Stone Cold Steve
Naveen,
Austin?
can you look at what beer Stone Cold Steve Austin... I'm going to put my money on... If he had to guess,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to say he was a Keystone Light guy.
All right, we're going to find out if that's true. Anyway, this is a show where we discuss sci-fi and other such stuff, but for some reason we talked about wrestling for a while.
Have you heard
that
the European tour is starting in August?
U2's European tour?
For Innocence and Experience?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
It's amazing. Listen, we got some complaints about that.
Yeah, because we didn't finish.
About the fact that we talk exclusively about U2 when it's just Jishnu and I on the podcast.
Yeah. But the problem was that we didn't finish.
No, look,
so we left them on a cliffhanger.
Let me ask you this. Who's going to stop us?
Naveen?
What?
Exactly.
Hey.
So, yeah.
Naveen barely listens to this show.
Look, so we got about like 8 songs in.
Right.
And I think the last thing I said was that I really liked the middle 4 songs in both this album and the previous one.
Right.
Like the last one had like Volcano and Raised by Wolves and stuff. This one had Red Flag Day and stuff, like the punky stuff. That was really cool. But again, it trails off towards the end. The last 4 songs,
I don't know. It trails off in the sense that it goes lower in energy, but I quite like those songs at the end. I particularly like
they're not bad, but like
There Is a Light reprise sort of thing that they close with.
It's alright.
It's nice.
Like, I don't find myself like singing those or like actively going out to listen to those.
No, but I feel like it's a nice closer. You know, it kind of.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
What beer does Stone Cold Steve Austin drink, Naveen?
Budweiser.
He's a Bud guy.
Bud Light or Budweiser?
Okay. Bud Light, I suspect.
Do you think he got endorsed for that?
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
I mean, he throws most of it away.
Well,
It was more of a bathing than a drinking. You know, like he would like smash the cans, turn them upside down, and then throw them into the crowd. And
I
so
have
people just
no
get wet
idea
and
who you're
sticky.
even talking about, Jishnu, so I don't know. I know who a Hulk Hogan is.
That's track 12.
Is Shawn Michaels a guy?
It's funny because track 13 is called 13.
Yes. Brackets, there is a light.
Right.
So we have
That's
some
the
fan
same
mail
song.
that we have to address.
Uh-huh.
First off, an email from Ariman Trivedi. Message, subject, hello there, Geek Fruit team.
Is that the message or the subject?
No, that's the subject. Message subject. Okay. Absolutely love the work y'all have been doing. I've been tuning in much more.
Wait, let's just stop there. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just.
No, he gives us more compliments. So I will go
really?
on.
Are you sure? Because it never ends well. It's been a trend for these emails, man. Like they always set us up. They're like, "Hey, I love your show, but you should know a couple of things."
Well, again, who's going to stop us? Absolutely love the work y'all have been doing, particularly the YouTube episodes with Jishnu and Dinkar.
Oh, hey.
No, that's a lie. I made that up.
See.
Okay. What Ariman does actually say is, I've been tuning in much more regularly to get my dose of nerd knowledge and updates. Just wanted to ask if there's a chance you guys will end up covering the behind-the-scenes look at how Geek Fruit operates.
So behind Dinkar is a wall that's quite bare. There is a security camera. I believe there's one behind me. Yes, there's another one behind me. There's a Daikin air conditioner. If you listen quietly, you can't hear anything because that's what Daikin does. Hashtag Daikin sponsorship.
Question mark? Also, shout out to the insane setup you guys have. Are there any Easter eggs or embarrassing stories behind the things you've kept on the shelves?
Insane setup?
Yes, he is
like
referring...
this microphone in front of me and the microphone in front of you?
Well,
and the table?
to give you a
And the
little
crossword
peek
puzzle
behind the
from today?
curtain, Ariman and our other listeners, we have essentially two studios. One where we shoot our videos, which is a bright yellow wall with shelves and lots of little knickknacks on them, which is what I believe Ariman is referring to. And the podcast is done in a very professional audio studio at IVM Podcasts, which is what Jishnu was just describing. I think this is about the extent of behind the scenes we should get into, because beyond this, trust me, we're very boring. But you will have a chance. If you are really interested, we will have, at the end of this episode, a quiz question, which we will put out on our Twitter. And if you answer it correctly, you will get a chance to be on a Geek Fruit episode. What? Yes, you heard that right. Yeah. And I just paused for applause and whatnot there. And gasps.
No, I'm not gonna.
No, you're not gonna.
Consider it a golf clap.
Alright, so stay tuned until the end of the episode for that question and the chance to be on a Geek Fruit episode. What? Oh my god, I can't believe it.
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna help this.
Next up, we have a recurring segment that we've done once in a while. It's time for a mail from Emil.
Hey,
it's been a while. How are you doing, Emil?
I'm good. How are you?
You know what I've noticed? A lot of our fans, their names begin with an A. There's Aryaman, there's Emil. Last week we had an Astha write-in.
Oh,
No, sorry, an Asmita write-in.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah. It's almost like we're making up names and just picking the ones with A. You would think that, but it's not true. I swear.
Read the mail. This is going nowhere fast.
All right. Emil says, now I know that all of you love talking about this movie, especially Jishnu, who enjoyed the hell out of Suicide Squad. What are your thoughts about Suicide Squad Part 2 that may release sometime this fall? They've been saying they've made a whole lot of changes for this movie, which will star both Will Smith and Margot Robbie. Not too sure about Jared Leto. Do you think DC will have learned their lesson after all the F-ups from the first movie and will generate something better than what we've seen before? Could this be DC's Winter Soldier? I would love to know your input. Man, DC's Winter Soldier, that's a big ask. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, because I don't think DC wants to go into that that serious political drama space. I mean, they could. Like the one angle which I was intrigued by is sort of now changing it up. I would say changing it up like they haven't been changing it up every movie, but seeing as how they've tried throwing a bunch of things against the wall and nothing has stuck. They tried let's pull the Avengers together in our own way and make the Justice League, and that happened, or didn't happen. And so now I think one thing that could be cool is if they just flipped it and made it all about the villains, because like the villains are their Money in the Bank.
Yes.
That's a wrestling reference.
Is it?
To wrestling circa post 2005. So
right.
Yeah, we wouldn't know about that. But
all right.
That's a thing, I believe. Anyway, but so what I'm getting at is the villains are really cool. So if they do some sort of big team up with that and make the villains the focal point of the stories,
of the universe as a whole?
Yes, that could be interesting. Because the thing is, Marvel is constantly failing. They haven't failed outright.
The
but
villains
the
always
villains are
been
always
the
the
weakest
weaker ones,
point.
right? And
Yes.
so now they're building up to Thanos, and we're super excited. We couldn't be more pumped. Like they've pulled off an amazing balancing act, just making it work for as long as they have.
Mm-hmm.
But it will come to a climax in some way, and things have got to change, and they're pimping out how it will be unlike anything ever before post the fact, right? If DC flipped it from the get-go and don't sort of take their own bait that they planted in Justice League about the dark side stuff, which is exactly what Thanos is, and brought it to a ground level, street level villain story, then that could be different enough to stand on its own 2 feet, where we can't constantly compare them to Marvel.
And I think that would be amazing. This is
because that's the biggest problem, right?
Exactly.
We're constantly comparing them.
It is DC's biggest strength in the movies they've done so far as well, even in the weakest ones, and there have been several weak ones. In fact, almost all of them are the weak ones. But a pet theory of mine, and Tejas and I have discussed this a bunch of times, possibly on the podcast, but DC's always set up great antagonists who aren't your typical, like, I want to take over the world guys. Like in Wonder Woman, for example, they've given heroes problems that aren't literally just like, there's a dude who wants to blow up the world.
Yeah.
How do we stop him from blowing up the world? In Wonder Woman, there was this great build-up until the third act of this whole, like, is man just like a complicated dude who can be evil and good and that kind of thing? And yet they threw that all away at the end when they go like, oh no, actually, that dude's Ares. He's the evil one. Let's stab him.
I'm with you. Give me one more, though. I can't think.
Batman v Superman, where the entire question is essentially Batman has to deal with this question of,
I guess,
is an all-powerful superhero really a threat to humanity? Which again they threw away right in the third act by going, hey, there's a Doomsday's gonna punch us all to death. Let's punch him back. With Man of Steel, again, a complicated question that they begin with, which is essentially like, what is Superman's moral responsibility to the universe?
Yeah.
But they end with, hey, Zod's coming in, gotta punch him.
If you punch hard enough, everything will get solved.
Exactly, that's the problem. So it's like they ask really interesting questions, but then they get distracted by like a squirrel, like a dog. So they're like, it's like a dog going like, well, what is the meaning of, wait a second, there's a squirrel. Like the dudes from Up.
Right. No, that's a fair point, yeah. So I think, to answer your question, Amil, I don't think it's going to be like the Winter Soldier at all. I don't think they're going to try playing that game.
Yeah, if we're talking Suicide Squad 2 specifically, I have zero expectations.
Because Suicide Squad, for all its flaws, it did have a good sort of family unit together, much in that Guardian space of like, hey, we all are dysfunctional, happy family. I know that's what they were going for.
In theory.
But like that was the only endearing part of the movie for me, was that like I believed this group of people sort of like bumbling along like the Scooby-Doo kids, basically like, we're just gonna go down this rabbit hole and see what happens, and it's a horribly boring rabbit hole. But either way, if they keep that together, and then the fact that they are villains makes it more interesting, because that's the usual dynamic for your protagonists in the story. So if you make your villains, in a weird way, your villains kind of your protagonists.
Yeah.
Your anti-heroes, basically.
Ideally, that would have been, like worst heroes ever.
Yeah,
the tagline for Suicide Squad.
They should, in TV now, like the anti-hero is the huge thing. Like, at least, maybe
for like the past 10 years.
It has been for
now.
the past 10 years. It's vaguely like quietening down at this point, which I kind of like, because I think it's kind of been done. But yeah, if they take a page out of like your Walter Whites and Frank Underwoods, they could get a lot more mileage, I think, because Marvel is not anywhere in that.
I would love it if Suicide Squad 2 really brought us a lot of powerful villains who can then expand into the rest of the DC universe. Yeah. This I would love, but I have zero expectations from it. Yeah. My favorite moment from Suicide Squad that I recalled while we were discussing this is when they're all on a plane at some point, and what's his name? Who's the dude who sucks? The GI guy? He's the one who's...
I honestly can't name a single person, man. I don't remember a
So it's basically this part where Katana is introduced, and they go like, this is Katana.
Right.
Her sword traps souls.
Yes.
And everyone goes like, cool.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
That was the intro for Katana. She walks on.
That was
she's got
the
a sword.
entirety of Katana's
it's a cool sword,
roles.
guys. All right, sweet.
It traps souls. Anyway, speaking of trapping souls, we're going to free ourselves from this segment by taking a break.
Wow, you're professional.
Yes.
With the segues.
My words and my segues trap souls. We will see you on the other side of this break.
We're from the Daily POW, a Bombay-specific food and culture website, and we have a weekly podcast called the Powdcast.
That's POW with an O, not with a V.
Why is it with an O and not with a V when most people spell POW with a V?
Because it's POW, not powerful.
And you know some people also spell it with a U.
Like POW, like feet.
Yeah.
Like POW Lagu.
Yeah, like POW Lagu. So weird. To listen to more of us and what we have to say about the city and its culture and its food, listen to the Powdcast every week on IVM Podcasts.
Welcome back to the Geek Food Podcast. It's me, Dinkar. Hi, how do you do? Why, yes, I'm fine too. And with me, we have Jishnu. Say hi, Jishnu.
No.
Okay, fine. So, after that little general talk segment, shall we say, we're going to get into what the meat of our episode will be.
Economics.
Economics, essentially.
Yes.
But, purely because of the fact that we deal with such mainstream culture so often, and the fact that Disney's played so much of a role in our lives over the years, and continues to, this is a topic that we have to address, which is the fact that Disney is literally taking over the world.
Yep.
It's like the reliance of the globe.
You can rely
On Disney?
Well, you said it, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, it begins with some news that came out a couple of months back, which is that Disney is going to be setting up its own streaming service in the next couple of years. Which essentially means it's setting up a competitor to Netflix, which means it'll pull all of its content from Netflix and set up another system where you have to subscribe to see all the Disney content, and that covers like literally everything you like. It's all
Pretty
the Marvel
much.
stuff, it's all the Star Wars stuff, it's all the Pixar stuff, it's all the Disney stuff, obviously. And now
Fox.
and now
Fox and
all the
Friends.
Fox stuff.
Yeah.
So they literally own, I don't know, maybe 80% of all the content we consume on a
Yep.
daily basis.
Pretty much.
What are your thoughts on this, Jishnu?
So, to that end, believe me, this is relevant. Did you see David Letterman's new show?
My next guest needs no introduction?
Yes.
Not yet.
Okay, so that's a weekly show, which
Yes.
surprised me. But I kind of saw what they're getting at.
It's a weekly
endgame-wise.
Netflix show.
It's a weekly Netflix show. It's a
Yeah.
talk show. It's an hour long. So, like any Netflix show, there are no ads.
Yeah,
But it is released only once a week.
Yes.
One episode a week.
Yeah.
So it's literally television.
it is.
Sans the ads, which is better television, right? So if Disney gets all that stuff and creates their own bubble, then you're just basically going back to basic cable in the way in which we function.
Yeah.
In that Netflix now is creating its own content quite freely, like
Yeah.
a ton of new stuff. Bright is the biggest movie, whatever, blah, 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 made some 11 million or something in like the first week. Some ridiculous
Really?
amount.
Have they said that?
Yeah.
It's not. Did it also get a theatrical release, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of they're going for broke with their own content as well.
Yes.
They're also doing, like I said, weekly released shows, TV shows. So they're kind of, I feel like they're preparing.
they did the same thing with Chelsea. Chelsea
Handler was
Yes.
her weekly.
Hers was weekly.
Oh,
yes.
well, there you go. So I mean, I feel like Netflix saw this coming, and they're basically preparing for the war,
Yeah.
pretty much, because they know that once you take all that stuff off, then I think you're taking away, like, I'm talking out of my butt, but like at least half their content is gone.
Probably. This was always Netflix's biggest strength, right? It's like they had a button on the future before it came, because they started, of course, as a DVD mailing service, which was literally like,
Yeah.
hey, you want a DVD? We will send it to you in the physical email.
I did that.
The physical email
Yeah.
is an envelope. I don't know if you know this. Anyway, and then they started streaming way before anybody had any idea what streaming was. So their advantage was they got in before the pipes, literally the internet pipes were saturated. So they could build their infrastructure, take their time, iron out all the kinks in their service, and set up something that was great, and buy content from studios, or license it from studios rather.
Yeah.
With studios being cool with it, because they were like, oh, cool, yeah, whatever. You're going to put it on your little internet thing, I guess? Sure.
Yeah.
Go wild.
So the thing is, I particularly am not all that fussed about this happening, because even, 10 years ago, I think, I was already saying to myself, I don't think I will ever buy a cable subscription. I don't know if I'll ever buy a TV for sole TV viewing. It'll be like a video game console for the TV or a computer or something,
Yeah.
And now, if this is going to happen, which it pretty much definitely will, I'll end up paying for Netflix, for Netflix shows, and the few, other studios that still are tied with it. I'll pay for Disney and that entire supermarket's worth of content.
Yes.
And maybe like a Hulu, Hotstar, maybe like another
You will
local.
pay for a Hulu, you'll pay for a Hotstar, you'll pay for an Amazon Prime.
Right. But so all this put together is, we're still talking at the moment, if all of this was put together, it would still be like under $2,000 a month.
It's still comparable.
Which is super cheap.
This is true. It's
for
comparable.
the amount of content.
I agree. It's comparable to what you'd pay for cable right now. But,
Isn't it cheaper than what you pay for cable right now?
What, $2,000?
How much would you pay for cable? I have no idea, except because I haven't done
$2,000
this.
sounds about right. That's how
About
much you'd pay for a pretty decent package on like a Tata Sky type situation.
Okay. But that's not counting. Naveen has put up 4 fingers.
$4,000? 400.
400?
So it's way cheaper.
Oh, wow.
And there is the fact that Netflix recently hiked their international prices. They kept India the same because they're worried that India won't buy.
They're worried we're cheap.
But this is the case, right?
Yeah.
We're also in this sort of honeymoon period right now where people are trying to get you to sign up for their streaming service. When I say people, I mean corporations who are people
Right.
too. So your streaming services are trying to get you to sign up. So they're offering you these like ridiculously cheap deals. Amazon Prime is $500 a year for free delivery and everything else.
Yeah.
Like, you would buy that
That's
anyway.
nonsense.
It's like they just threw in everything. Now they're going to throw in music along with it because Amazon Prime Music is a thing. And all of this is, and obviously Amazon losing a ton of money over this, but they're doing it just so you're buying into their system, right? Netflix is doing the same thing. Disney, again, will have the capital and the resources to go like, you know what? It's like, it's 7 rupees. Just sign up for our service. They're going to get you in.
My Apple Music is 120 rupees a month.
Exactly. But at some point, this will become unsustainable and you'll have to start paying like full retail price. At which point, the costs add up.
For every one of these, you think?
I'm sure it'll happen at some point because, I mean, Amazon can't keep throwing away money forever. Disney can't keep throwing away money forever.
But Prime has been a thing for Amazon for like
It is.
over a decade.
And it's one of their biggest loss makers. Right now, they pay for everything because Amazon Web Services is like a huge money-making enterprise. So they're paying for essentially, once the entire universe is on Amazon, Jeff Bezos will go like, and now charge them $15 a day. And we'll have to say like, yeah, I'm addicted to my Prime subscription now.
Basically, everybody's going to turn into Apple.
Probably. At some point, I think they will. And more importantly, we will have to sign up for all of these services because all of them, at some point, will start creating amazing content by themselves. Again, Netflix had their finger on the button way before anyone else here because they realized, wait a second, everyone's going to wake up and realize the internet is a new thing. And they're going to start their own streaming services because it's not that hard to start a streaming service.
Nope.
It's hard in the sense that, well, it takes some time to like iron out the kinks and whatnot. But you could just go the Disney way, for example, who up and bought a streaming service. They're like, we're going to start our own streaming service. Then everyone was like, how are you going to do that? They said like, we're going to buy that one. And they bought ESPN's streaming service, if I'm not mistaken. And the tech behind it. So they're fine. When they launch, there's going to be no issues because they're buying into like a very well sorted out system. Now,
Damn.
Yeah.
Economics.
Now,
Smart
to
things.
get back to my original point, Netflix started creating originals way before most other places did, I think, other than Hulu, just because they knew this was eventually going to happen and streaming services would start like making their own stuff and studios would start their own streaming services. So they're like, we have to insure ourselves against the future, which is why they're way ahead of everyone else. And they're making like a whole range of stuff. So they have like your stoner comedies like Disjointed, I think it's called. Talk shows. They're doing like award-winning stuff like Beasts of No Nation.
Right.
They're doing blockbusters like Bright. In the meantime, everyone else is still trying to catch up. Like Amazon or Hulu finally like actually made something that people watch, which was Handmaid's Tale. Until then, no one was watching.
But I mean, another way to look at this is from the perspective of the creators themselves and the production houses that make these little films or whatever shows they are. They have to then go and shop these scripts and movies and whatever around to different broadcasting companies or streaming services, as you would, right? So they'd either go to a Netflix, Hulu, whatever Disney will be, or they could go to a major studio that has the ability to put you into theaters, like put you into like a screening space as opposed to like just a home viewing space, right? And so I feel like it's an easier sell to sell something to a Netflix than it would be to sell it to a Universal Studios or somebody that could then put it into the IMAX screens and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And so that the one slightly disappointing thing about everybody having a streaming service is that it's going to take away from
the creators.
It's going to take away from the big screen selling. You know what I mean? Like I'm curious as to what will remain in the big screen, because at least right now, you know full well that for me personally, almost exclusively, the only time I go to a theater these days is to watch an IMAX film.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively. I really can't remember the last movie I saw that wasn't in IMAX. And the IMAX movies that are coming out right now are the big tentpole, Star Wars and Jurassic Worlds and whatever it is. Like the movies that'll make billions of dollars, right? And those movies would definitely not have gone to a small time, streaming service. Like you wouldn't find those movies on a Hulu or anything anytime soon.
No.
But so I'm just wondering how this will change the dynamic of the kind of content that goes out to big screen theaters. Like what does this mean for cinema viewing?
I think that's a very interesting question. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, let's get into how this affects the cinema viewing experience and literally the kind of stuff that creators are making now. So we'll get into that. Do you agree, Jishnu? Can we shake on this?
Fist bump.
We're going to fist bump on it.
No, I grabbed your fist instead.
He grabbed my fist instead. All right. We're going to take a break right now.
Hello, I'm Sanjeev.
And I'm Tushar.
And this is the Rotomouth Podcast, a weekly show where we talk about motors and motoring in India. Cars, bikes, rickshaws, buses, friends, familiars, and time pass.
Find us every week on the IVM podcast app or any other app you might use. Stuck in traffic? Put on Rotomouth. Taking a while in the loo? Rotomouth is there for you.
Dude, that sounded particularly disgusting.
Thank you. But seriously, catch Rotomouth every week.
I'm doing this welcome back segment.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Pod. Oh, damn it. I think you got in before me.
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Go ahead. Welcome the viewer back.
All right, so we're trying to sound smart.
Yeah. So,
Say things that are vaguely intelligent.
well, I've found in my experience that E most often equals MC squared. What about you?
I have no idea what that means.
You don't know what E equal to MC squared
What
means?
does that mean? Mass
means that-
into something?
Mass into the speed of light squared is the amount of energy.
Speed of light is C?
It's represented as C. Yes.
Why is it C?
Because it's that damn fast.
Because you can't see it?
Yes.
Why is it C? Who the hell said C?
The dude who came up with the speed of light said it's going to be notated
Okay,
as
wait.
C.
Look at it this way. M
Yeah.
is mass because mass starts with M.
It's a small m.
So,
by the way.
like, why? So, centimeter is cm,
Yes.
right? But so, does that mean that the guy came up with said, I need speed of light to have a letter, before they said, I need centimeters to have a letter?
That's actually true, probably.
Really?
The metric system is fairly recent, comparatively.
Smart people things, man.
Yeah.
We're talking smart people things.
That's the amount
Okay.
of energy that's
So-
contained within any body in the
Nope,
universe.
You lost me the minute you started gesturing.
All right,
So,
let's talk about
movie
what's-
theaters, I think, might have to change their game as well with this
I
new
wonder
motion. Like,
how, though.
it's going to be a slow transformation. I'm
Yeah.
hesitant to say slow death, but I feel like that's what's happening, man. Because, like, look at it this way. Will Smith, biggest actor in the world. Every single movie he puts out, no matter how good, bad, and ugly, and I'm looking at you, Suicide Squad, they will get butts and seats.
And a bunch of his other movies of the past, 10 years or so.
No, I mean, he never fails. Like, he is Mr. Summer Blockbuster.
True. Suicide
right?
Squad was an Oscar-winning blockbuster movie.
Right?
So
Now, Mr. Summer Blockbuster
yes.
says to himself, you know what? I'm going to sign up with Netflix because he like Netflix themselves, kind of a visionary. Like, he is known for, like, making amazing calls. Like, he made a very smart decision to do Suicide Squad and to not do Independence Day 2.
Yes.
Much to my dismay. I was very upset about
Of course,
that.
what an
But-
amazing call.
But still, that was a great call, right? And so he said, I will not do Independence Day 2. And instead, this is years apart, but I will do Bright, which is a bizarre-ass concept for Netflix, of all things. Like, when he knows full well that he has the star power to put his name on anything, and it'll be put in IMAX, and it'll make a hell of a lot more money than Bright ever will.
Yeah.
But there is some growth that can happen by investing in that kind of a format of doing the bright kind of films, because those movies will have a quicker turnaround, which means you can get to more people quicker and you can make more of them.
More creative control, I suspect.
And yeah, I'm sure.
So
right?
I think in some ways this is a golden age for creators, because suddenly you have a lot of streaming services that are hungry for content, and they're hungry for prestigious artistic content.
Right.
So they don't have to play to these giant audiences anymore, so you won't have something like a 2.5 Men necessarily on most streaming services, because they're going for your prestige fare, they're going for a Handmaid's Tale, they're going for like a Game of Thrones, they're going for that kind of thing.
Wait, I don't follow that analogy. So when you're saying they don't have to make 2.5 Men because it's to the masses too much?
So
it's too like 2.5 Men, Big Bang Theory, those are two like
they're very broad shows, right?
Right.
So
That's
you're
like,
essentially you're on CBS. You're saying
safe.
I've got everyone from like 62 years to 26 years or 6 years
6
old
years. Yeah, I mean,
tuning
anybody.
in,
Right,
and I've got to make something that appeals to all of them.
Right.
Whereas on a streaming service, you're saying
you can be more niche.
You can be more niche. You're saying like this is the really cool stuff. So if they care, they will click play, and I know I'll get like dedicated viewers that way.
Right.
Which is why it's important for them to make shows that will be talked about, because that's the only way you find these shows in the first place.
Right.
So if I make a Handmaid's Tale and it's buzzing and it's getting all the awards and whatnot, then you're going to go like, I have to watch that. Whereas when they make, I mean, they are of course trying other approaches as well. Netflix is doing that stoner sitcom right now, which is essentially like a multicam sitcom. It's got like a laugh track and everything.
Which one? What's it called again?
It's called Disjointed, I think. And it's about a weed. And that cool older lady, Diane Squibb, something like that.
Oh,
She was in Nebraska, if I remember correctly. I haven't actually seen the show.
Bruce Springsteen album? Okay, no.
I'm figuring all this out from the thumbnail, by the way.
Right. Okay, so I mean, you could think of it this way, right? So if you're a broadcast TV company, right, you know that your content, whatever you put out there, is going to be available at the touch of a button without anybody knowing what they're getting in for, right? Which is why you have far more severe censorship on television than you would on a streaming service, because anybody can walk into the room and just see tits in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And that's not okay, which is why they put it at a later time. That's why they put it on a premium service and things like that.
HBO, yeah.
So you want to make stuff that's more safe. So you want to make your Big Bang Theories and your 2.5 Men that's sort of, it's okay if grandma watches it, and it's okay if kids watch it. But so
90% of mainstream, of broadcast television is that, essentially, right?
Yeah. So you have that. That's still going, right? Obviously, the more, like, the quote-unquote artists who want to have the freedom to do whatever they want and not be told by Big Brother that, hey, listen, this is not kosher, it's not cool, you have to abide by my rules, they'll go to the streaming services, as they have been doing. But so then, those streaming services function just like a movie theater, where you go and you see, all right, these things are playing, what I want to do, which one, what I want to see, what am I in the mood for? And the production budgets that are going into making those films or TV shows are at this point pretty damn close. Give it another 5 years.
Very close, yeah.
It's going to be right on par.
And they're going to be bigger as the bigger companies get in.
Right, and like the day that like 3D properly enters home viewing, it's been flirting with it. It's nowhere near there yet. But when it does happen, and it's an inevitability, I'd say 5 to 10 years, once that comes to home viewing, then why do you need to go to a movie theater?
I know. This is probably the biggest worry I think even I have, which is that if you notice, pretty much all the streaming services optimize for TV shows, because that's what you can binge, right? And binging is like where everyone wants you to go, streaming services wise, because that's where the money is for them. The more you watch, the longer you watch. Even like YouTube, for example, now if you notice, pushes you towards videos that are like 10 minutes long and stuff, because they want you to keep watching for a longer duration.
Right.
So when they make Bright, until they make the sequel, which will come out like a year and a half from now, you're not invested in the Bright universe.
Right.
But if they made Bright into like a 10-episode miniseries, you're going to watch those 10, and then they'll have the next season out in like the next 6 months. So they're optimizing for TV shows, which means movies automatically become like less of a priority for both, for anybody who wants to work in the film medium. On the bright side, it means TV is getting way, way better. But on the negative side, it means that cinema experience and the movie experience is kind of losing its charm.
Think of it this way. You cannot have the spark that started the entire Marvel MCU monopoly on just like the world of science fiction comic book movies was, I think, single-handedly the Nick Fury post-credit scene at the end of Iron Man.
Absolutely.
Right? It just opened up floodgates. You can't have a post-credit scene on Netflix. Because you're like, hey, I'm going to tease something and then it's going to start in 5 seconds. It's like, well, okay, cool. So why, like, there's no need for a post-credit scene, right? So there's no earning it.
You did have the Punisher promo at the end of The Defenders, if I remember correctly.
Was there?
Yeah, like the entire Defenders series ends.
What?
They play the credits and then suddenly out of nowhere, the teaser for Punisher starts playing. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Did you,
Just
did
a
you
teaser.
walk out before the post-credit scene?
did I switch out of my tab?
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, that was like a ad.
Yeah,
as opposed to a
legit,
post-credit scene,
yes,
right? So
true.
like you can't have James Gunn's 8 post-credit scenes in the credits of Guardians 2 when it's playing in an auto cue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that the fandom, I feel, is going to be a lot stronger when you just have to earn the viewing, right? I mean, the fact that one of the biggest things going for Game of Thrones is that it's maintained this, we will take our own sweet time making it because we need to give this all the care and attention it deserves.
And we know you're going to watch.
And we know you're going to watch. And we're going to keep it a weekly thing so that you're constantly like being dragged along slowly but surely as opposed to binging.
Yeah.
Like you can't binge on those shows and that kind of makes them better because you have to like really relish every minute of it, right? And that sort of viewing culture, I think is
being lost.
Is on the
This worries me.
brink.
We're on the brink of stepping into a whole new world, Jishnu. And it's in this weird transitionary phase right now, but I feel like eventually, you're already seeing it, but stuff is getting very like algorithmically designed now, where it's like, this is what people like.
We're being a
We're
drip
going to
fed.
make...
We're like, we have Ivy.
We're like, all right, I have the perfect formula for a TV
Exactly.
show, is what it's at right now.
We're in the Matrix,
And-
man. We just have like tubes
we're in
inserted.
the Matrix.
Tubes are being inserted and they're like, you get what you get.
To be fair, formulaic television and film has always been a thing.
Yeah.
But before, the formula was being created by humans. So that's still cool. They go like, hey, what if we
Right.
put 5 boys who can dance together and call it the Backstreet Boys? That's a formula.
Yeah.
But that formula worked.
Because those boys have to like work their asses off.
Yeah. Let's make sure 2 of them are called AJ. No, wait. 2 of
What?
them are called Nick.
No.
2 of them are called Kevin.
What do you say? No. What?
There are 2 of them with the same name, right?
No.
What do you think? Okay, wait. AJ,
AJ,
Nick, Kevin,
Brian,
Brian,
and Howie.
and Howie. Okay. I just knew them as the Backstreet Boys, I think.
Hey, let's name other boy bands. Ronan, Steven,
All right.
Shane,
Boyzone.
who are the other guys?
The other Irish
Wait,
dudes.
no, I can do this. Mikey
Mikey.
and Keith.
Okay, who's in NSYNC? Justin, Joey Fat One,
Nick.
There was a Nick there?
No, that was 98 Degrees.
Nick Lachey. Yes, 98 degrees. Husband of Jessica Simpson, correct?
Ex-husband.
Ex-husband. Okay, Jishnu put into Hogwarts houses, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Westlife, and
yes.
Boyzone.
Well done. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm conflicted because
All right.
I can tell you my order of preference, hands
Yes.
down.
All right.
I don't know
Give
about
me
the
order
houses
of
so much.
preference. Let's try this
So
out.
just go down the list again.
Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Westlife, and Boyzone.
Right. Boyzone
Dead last.
first.
First?
Number
Your
one with
first
the bullet.
favorite? Is
Number
this
one
because
with
they
the
were in a
bullet.
YouTube video once?
And had Mr. Bean in their video.
Oh, they had Mr.
Picture of
Bean in
You
their
is my
video.
jam.
Correct.
It is my jam.
They did a comic relief video once
Yeah.
when the tough get... No,
When the going gets tough.
the tough get going. Very good
great
song. Yeah.
So it's Boyzone, Backstreet Boys, Westlife, NSYNC. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Now put them in Hogwarts houses. Naveen, you have to do this too.
I think
You have to put them into Hogwarts houses. We're all playing the
Boyzone.
game.
Boyzone are the Boyzone would be
The Gryffindors. They're Irish.
I guess
feel like
so.
everyone Irish is already a Gryffindor.
yeah, I guess so.
All right.
The Backstreet Boys would be. They'd be the Ravenclaws, maybe. Yeah, they'd be the Ravenclaws.
The Backstreet Boys are the Ravenclaws?
Yeah,
Sure.
because they're the most veteran. they're like the most bookwormed because like they're seasoned.
Right.
They really have their shit together. Have you seen that like reunion stuff? They're amazing.
They're, yeah, I've
like
seen some of
they're
them.
legit. Like they can perform.
They're doing an LA residency right now, right?
residency.
Something like that.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
That sounds so legit.
Isn't it like they
I don't
perform for 2 years straight or something like that?
Some nonsense. I
That's
mean,
what Britney Spears is
they're
doing.
amazing.
Right.
They're like the talent is real.
Yeah.
And then I guess I'd say Hufflepuff would be Westlife
Okay.
and NSYNC are Slytherins. That's only because I just don't like NSYNC. I mean, not that I don't like NSYNC, but like I've never cared.
I think you are actually right in this case. NSYNC is the Slytherin of the lot because they're the sharp, evil ones. Boyzone is Irish, so they're Gryffindor, obviously.
So the other really scary
And
thing is
Westlife
that
is always like the derm.
the other really scary thing is that Fox is now being bought by Marvel.
I'll tell you what.
And so
no.
when it comes to
By Disney.
by Disney.
And Marvel was already
Right.
bought by Disney.
Right. But
Pixar
so-
was already bought by Disney.
So when it comes to our beloved comic book world, right? I've been looking up a couple of different opinions from various comic writers that write for Marvel. The writer for X-Men Gold, which is still ongoing, was quoted to say, I think he rightfully said that, like, look, it's kind of scary for the creative freedom that the authors and illustrators are going to have now, because we're all under one umbrella, and it's kind of like, how do we create our own voices? But he himself, much like several others, also said, but as far as the real money is concerned, and something that we're really happy is making money, which is the MCU, is concerned, the home team is also equally excited that it's under Kevin Feige, that the entire universe will now be under his purview.
Will it be though? Are they just expanding his power that wildly?
I mean, I would assume so. Like,
Okay.
that would be kind of like, why wouldn't you? Right? I mean, like,
yeah.
like,
I guess.
why? Yeah, because yes.
All right.
What more proof do you need?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, and I mean that. I'm sure that
just
extends to
scary,
like
though.
Jeff
I mean,
Loeb.
that's
Jeff
one
Loeb would
dude.
also probably have purview over the Fox characters now for television.
Right.
He is a bit more hit or miss, obviously, with the TV stuff with Marvel. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for that. That mainly that Kevin Feige will get his hands on these characters, and that's really cool.
They're
But
doing this with a bunch
I'm
of
scared.
creators, though, like kind of putting it into their hands and going like, make your own thing, and it's going to be under our umbrella. Like Ryan Johnson is now doing his own completely separate trilogy.
Right.
A move, I suspect, is inspired in large part by the fact that they need a lot of content for their upcoming streaming service. They're like,
Probably.
we need a ton of, like,
Yeah.
we need as many Star Wars movies as
But
you can
imagine?
binge.
But
Yeah.
can you imagine the new Star Wars movie comes out
Yeah.
and it's not in theaters?
No, that's not going to happen.
But I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be this trilogy.
Don't break
maybe
my heart,
the next
Jishnu.
trilogy. I mean, you think I could see it maybe in like a decade?
I feel like the function
It
of
could
movie
happen.
theaters will change from...
Exactly. Unless the function changes,
Yeah.
theaters as they stand right now are not going to last. Something has to change.
Yeah, I suspect it'll be the fact that only like your necessarily big screen viewing experiences
Exactly.
will be
Unless you've
theater
spent
watched.
$1 billion making this movie,
Okay.
it does not need to be watched in theaters. Like, you're not going to see Bridesmaids, even though it has an amazing cast, like a huge star cast, everybody knows these people, everybody trusts it's going to be a great movie. Bridesmaids in 10 years is not going to be in theaters. Because you
Yeah,
don't need
that's
to
true.
see Bridesmaids in theaters, do you? No, but you do need to see Star Wars and Jurassic Park in theaters.
I don't know, I feel like big blockbuster movies for sure, visual spectacle movies and comedies. Comedies lose a lot if you watch them alone at home, you know?
Right.
Like, it's much nicer to watch Bridesmaids with
But
a
it's a
theater
hell of a
full
lot,
of people
but it's
that
a
are
hell of a lot
laughing.
cheaper for the guys to...
Exactly.
So,
Yes,
where are they
I don't
gonna
know
go?
if that'll happen.
And the trends that we have right now, Disney, money-making machine. I mean, you can't blame them. They are a company. That's what they're supposed to do. As far as the numbers are concerned, I would be stunned if they chose not to go that way.
So essentially, we're on the cusp of a very interesting time.
Yeah.
We have no idea where it'll go.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's only going to get stronger for home viewing
Yeah.
because, like, our screen sizes are going to get bigger at home for cheaper. And we're going to get 3D and 4D, etc., etc. at home. So
Yeah.
I have no... Believe me, I want a reason for cinema to continue, but I just can't think of what they have going for it right now that would keep,
Yeah. I mean, let's just hope that people, the glue of the universe, continue to create amazing things.
Yeah.
And we'll figure out what all the algorithms do afterwards.
Sure.
So, let me just ask you this, Jishnu. Put into Hogwarts houses, Disney, Netflix? No, wait. Disney, DreamWorks,
Oh.
Universal, I'm naming studios. And Naveen, give me a fourth studio. Fox. Fox. MGM like
Doesn't
literally only
exist.
makes Bond, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Disney, Fox, Universal, and Sony.
Oh, God.
Okay, I'll save you the trouble. I'll tell you the answer.
Yeah.
They're all Slytherin. Because studios are evil. Okay.
Man.
Anyway, let's close this one out. That's it for this episode of the Geek Fruit podcast.
No, it's not.
Why not?
That was a false news report.
How dare you?
I have some random news for you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Remember that thing?
Yes, we're going to do some random news.
All right. So, very relevant to actually what we were talking about, which makes it not random
Is this
at
a
all.
post-credit scene in the Geek Fruit podcast?
Okay. So, Star Wars fans in Japan can choose between the light or dark sides of the Force versions when they watch the 4DX version of The Last Jedi.
What does that mean?
Exactly. It's an immersive special effects tailored to give the audience separate perspectives. So the two versions are delivered in the same theaters, and fans have been split 50-50 on whether to experience the film from the light or the dark side. So the vibrations, the tilts, the wind, fog, strobe, and other effects enhance differing aspects of the screen action for the light and dark sides on the theaters.
What?
Lightsaber battles create different reverb effects for the two sides, while the atmosphere will deliver for scenes on First Order ships and Rebel bases.
Okay.
So this is exclusive to Japan. They're trying out 4DX.
I think you've answered your question, Jishnu.
Right?
This is why movie theaters need to exist. For weird stuff.
But at the moment, it's only in Japan.
Right.
So they're beta testing this kind of stuff.
It'll eventually expand to the rest of the world, I think. Right now, it's only in super far off places like Japan and Thane, where we have a 9D cinema experience.
9D?
Yeah. It's got the first 3Ds, then 6 more.
9D?
It's 9D. We'll find out what it is. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of the Geek Fruit podcast. A reminder, follow our Twitter, that's at GeekFruitHQ. And in fact, follow us on all social media, because we will be putting out a contest in this week, where if you answer, you can be a guest on this very podcast. Can you believe it, Jishnu?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that was fairly easy. All right, so follow us, talk to us at GeekFruitHQ. Tell us what you think about this episode. Tell us your thoughts on the streaming future. Tell us what you want us to talk about going further. If you want to talk to us individually, you can do so. Jishnu, what's your Twitter handle?
At Tejas Menon.
Okay, my Twitter handle is at Jishnu Guha. And Naveen's is at Dinks Thinks. And, well, I guess that's it. You can also follow at @no_Ronha, which is Tejas's Twitter handle. Have I got this right?
Yep. Exactly right.
Okay, cool. Also, follow IVM Podcasts. Go to ivmpodcast.com. Follow at IVM Podcasts on all social media, where you will see updates from Geek Fruit, as well as a bunch of other cool shows on this network. Oh, also follow at The Chip Review on Instagram, where I, Dinkar, I review chips. That's pretty much it. And sodas.
Soda.
Chips and sodas, but it's only called The Chip Review. You know why? Because it's my own damn account and I can do what I want. Until next time,
He has one post.
you nerds.
He bends down to test the warm water for his bath. He comes here to quench his thirst for a hot shower and some podcasts. You can witness how he enjoys having other people talk about cool stuff in his bathroom. Indeed, it helps him with his loneliness. You can find more of his pieces on ivmpodcast.com, your one-stop destination where you can check out the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.